Hi everyone, my name is Balraj and I'm a 23-year-old Canadian from Toronto. I recently completed my bachelor's in business administration and I'll be starting out my career in strategy consulting after this summer. With some of this time off that I've had, I decided to study for and write the GMAT Focus exam, as I'm not exactly sure what the future holds in store for me. However, I feel like an MBA degree has a good chance of being a part of it, which is why I decided that it would be a good time right now to study for and write the GMAT Focus exam, as the score does last up to 5 years. And in the remainder of this video, I will essentially be going over that entire process and some of the things I learned along the way. So in terms of the actual exam, I ended up writing the exam on May 16th after a month and a half of preparation. And I ended up scoring a 705, which puts me in the 98.6th percentile as of the January 2024 percentile values. In terms of actual sectional breakdown, I received a 85 in quantitative reasoning, 84 in verbal reasoning, and 86 in data insights. I was pretty happy with my overall score because my initial goal was set out to score above 700 in order to position myself competitively to apply for M7 down the line. At the beginning of April, I wrote my first mock exam to set a baseline and see where I stood before I started studying. And here I scored a 615. So between that point and mid-May when I wrote the exam, it ended up being an improvement of 90 points. After that first mock that I wrote, that's when I began the process to GMAT prep, GMAT focus prep. And the way I started it was honestly just reaching out to people I knew that had gone through the process and just asking them about tips, resources that they used. And the one thing that kept coming up was target test prep. It seemed like everyone kept recommending it. And so I just decided to go forward with it. And I opted for the flexible preparation 1 month access, mainly because I felt like I had a pretty solid foundation to start with. But also, since I had this time off where I wasn't working, I feel like I could put more focused hours in per day to study versus someone that was, for example, studying in the evenings after work. And so I thought that the 1 month subscription just made sense in my situation. In terms of the actual target test prep platform, I opted for the accelerated approach, which essentially allows you to start with the chapter tests. And from there, you can go back and do the topics in a more granular sense. However, you could just move on from one chapter to the next by just completing these tests. The reason I really liked this option for me was it allowed me to not spend too much time on some of the chapters or some of the topics that I felt strong in already. As as I did these chapter tests, for example, if I was already scoring above 80% on the hard questions in some of these topics, I would then just move on to the next topic. Whereas when there were certain topics such as statistics and probability, combinations and permutations, some of these topics that I was a lot more rustier with and I wasn't performing as well on when it came to the chapter tests, I would actually go back to the actual chapter notes and read through it step by step and learn and fill in some of those gaps in my knowledge. The reason I really like this approach is it lets people at different paces or different starting points adapt and create a plan of attack that works best for them. And for me, this meant doing this accelerated approach for the first 20 days. And after those first 20 days, I had pretty much completed or went through all the units. However, this didn't mean that I had done every single question on target test prep because there's just like unbelievable amount of questions that you could actually do. However, after these 20 days, I still had about 2 weeks left of my membership or my subscription, and this is at the point when I started creating the custom tests on the platform. So this is basically a feature that I really liked, and it lets you create these custom tests with filters such as hard questions or questions that you haven't seen before, questions you've gotten wrong. and basically just create these custom tests and go through various different questions because of it. I really like this option, as it let me review all these units in a holistic sense now that I've gone through each one one by one, as well as address some of those pain points that I had, as well as staying sharp with all the units since I was constantly reviewing them for like 2 weeks with these custom tests. I believe the aspect of target test prep that really made the difference when it came to my preparation was this structured flexibility approach. What I mean by this is when it comes to just the quant section alone, there's over 15 units that you need to be familiar with. And it could honestly get quite overwhelming to know if you are doing well in all these units, or if there's certain points or certain weaknesses that you still have, since there's just so much that you actually need to know coming into this exam. The nice thing about target test prep is you could see the statistics of how you're actually performing, in terms of your chapter tests related to each unit, or what sort of questions are getting wrong, where you are often making the most mistakes. Along with that, you have those custom tests where you can kind of go back and do those questions that you've gotten wrong in the past. So what I mean to say is there is this structure to the platform where you go through each unit step by step. However, there's also that feedback loop where you're able to understand and see how you're actually improving, and see where those weaknesses lie. Having said this, I think this really gets point across that this platform is what you make of it. All the tools, all these things you could take advantage of are available on this platform. However, you need to be the one that goes and takes advantage of these some of these cool features that will give you the edge and help you actually develop and progress. After my month of subscription at Target Test Prep expired, I now decided it'd be time to do my second mock to see how much progress I had made and to see if I would be ready. Um, at this point, for my second mock, I scored 695, and after scoring this, I felt pretty much ready. I felt confident in regards to the test, so I booked the GMAT Focus exam 1 week out from that point. In between that week that I had from that second mock to when I was going to write it, I did a few more mocks, few more of the official mocks, just to sort of replicate the atmosphere that I would be writing in, and as well as getting used to having to focus for this extended period of time. And with those mocks behind me, I sort of took in that some of that experience and walked into test day with a good amount of confidence, feeling pretty comfortable about it. And yeah, wrote this exam, and that brings me here today, where I ended up scoring 705 on the exam. Before wrapping up, there's just a few key takeaways that I wanted to touch upon. And the first one being to really trust the process as you're going about it. I feel like the reason I was able to start from scratch and get the intended score that I wanted under 2 months was because I chose a plan of attack and I stuck through with it. For me, this meant just trusting those people that I knew, some of those friends that had recommended this Tory test prep platform to me, and using the platform the way it was intended to be used, following through with it, and sticking through to the end. I've heard a lot of stories of people that have flip flopped a lot between different programs, different textbooks, different tutors, because they were feeling anxious or feeling like they weren't progressing. However, I think when you are going through this process, it's especially when you're going through that studying, I feel like it's important to disassociate yourself from the target score and really just focus on the unit in front of you. Focus on the question in front of you, wanting to take it one at a time. Honestly, it could be quite anxious. I can see why it would be quite a traumatic or even disturbing experience if you place all this pressure upon you for getting this 98 or 99th percentile score. As if you are making mistakes or making mistakes over and over, you're going to place this burden, this pressure upon you, knowing that you can't be making in the actual exam. But I think that's not really a healthy way to go about it. I feel like you really need to just focus in on the units and just enjoy the actual process of learning some of these concepts that maybe you haven't touched upon since you were back in high school. For me, I feel like this process was quite enjoyable. I don't know if it's just the nerdy side of me coming out, but I feel like if you approach it with the right mindset, it could actually be a really enjoyable experience. Lastly, I'd say it's really important to hold yourself accountable for your results. Target test prep was the foundational piece of my preparation process. However, at no point did I feel like I was owed some sort of score, or that I was owed some sort of or I was owed the target that I was hoping to achieve just because I'd invested money into this program. As cliche as it sounds, your success really is in your own hands at the end of the day, and it really comes down to how you are using the resources available to you. I feel like we're lucky enough to live in a day and age today where there's amazing programs out there, such as Target Test Prep, that have been fine tuned to take you step by step to achieving your goals. However, it comes down to you putting the hours in. It comes down to you putting your phone away for 2 hours every day and just giving your undivided attention to the preparation process. And it comes down to that exam day where you're going to be sitting there with the multitude of emotions to handle, that pressure to handle, um, and having to pull upon some of these different concepts that you have drilled down. It really comes down to you. And I think when you adopt that mindset where you hold yourself accountable, it feels like you are in the driver's seat of your own success, and it allows you to believe in yourself at the end of the day, I feel like. I hope this video did somewhat of a good enough job to give you a glimpse into my journey, and I hope there's something you could take away from my experience that could help you out and help you guide you through your own process ahead.